Hello and welcome to All For United WFC. Hello and welcome to All For United with me, John Foster, MUFC Fans Forum. Had this topic in mind for about 6 days. We've held off on it, and now is the exact right time. It's been announced that Steven Blackstenius has gone to Arsenal. I want to go around the room shortly and just ask everyone's thoughts on that. Was it ever likely that she was going to come to United? Was there ever any sources out there saying that she was actually going to come to United? Was it fans putting 2 and 2 together and coming up with 5? There's loads of different ways we can look at it. Over the summer, we heard that we was in for her. Like, what does in for her actually mean? You know, if I see an advertisement on my Facebook of a nice shiny Rolex, I'll click on it. I'll see the price and I'll quickly click off it. You know,
you're starting my weird. You're nicking my weird analogies, mate. This isn't working. What's going on? What have you been doing the last few days?
I think, look, she's a quality player. We've missed out. Am I surprised after speaking to Emma Sanders a few days ago on the podcast? No, I'm not surprised, to be honest. We spoke to a lot of journalists who said that she would end up in the WSL. They were correct. They never said that it would definitely be United. Marty said before we came on the show, there's a lot of pull there with the Champions League and the manager. Obviously, there's a difference there. So we'll go around the table first and just what's everyone's thoughts on the fact that she's gone to Arsenal and not United. So Andy, welcome to the show. Throw you straight in there, mate.
Well, obviously, it's great news. No, of course it isn't. I mean, Jesus, you know, we're not happy about that. I mean, well, I'll go into it more in my topic, but it's like it is a bit worrying about the sort of, are we turning into Stepping Stone FC? You know, which over my dead body at the moment. But you know, I mean, Blackstenius is going to play for Arsenal. It could be a great decision for her. It could not be so good of a decision, but she's got enough, as you Americans would say, film. She's going to play at the Euros. You know, she's got enough behind her. But definitely I can see a possibility that she's not going to play as much as people might think they're going to play. And if you consider the reaction with some Arsenal fans of the signing of Blackstenius, I appreciate it's only been out for a couple of hours. You know, none of them are unhappy, but they're not exactly dancing in the streets. They're talking about needing defenders. Whereas I think I've discussed multiple times before, we desperately need a striker.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I view it very similar to Andy, but my biggest worry is as a club at the minute, we're not equipped to go out and get a player like Blackstenius, and that's really bad when you consider the stature of our club, where we just don't have that structure in place. And Andy's probably right. I think we are in that stepping stone club at the minute. We're just hovering outside the top 3. We don't know where we're going to get top 3 at the minute. I'll talk about that in my topic. And a player of that calibre, and speaking to some Swedish journalists, she is highly, highly rated out there. Very nice looking lady as well. So it'd have been lovely to have had her in the squad. I shouldn't really say that, I know. So I'll retract that statement. But
I can balance it out. Cristiano Ronaldo's not ugly. So is that better? Is that all right?
And she is, as Andy said, she's exactly what we're looking for. She knows where the goal is, and she would have been absolutely dynamite. Along with Katie, along with Jackie, along with VBR. I think the VBR Blackstenius potential partnership would have been absolutely explosive. But it comes to one other thing. Andy mentioned a point about Champions League football. And I made a point on the men's channel about Harry Kane a while ago. There are certain players that take the path of least resistance to get their trophies or to get Champions League football, etc. I would like to see a player with a little bit of bottle. He wants to come and try and grow a club. And I thought Blackstenius would have that, about her to want to come and grow a club. So that's my disappointment behind it.
Just before I bring Marty in, I just want to touch on this one, what Ivy's put on. It's about there's no backup, and it does look that way. Now, again, we don't know how serious United is actually in for Blackstenius. So we might have missed out on somebody else who we don't know about. There are plenty of players out there, but obviously this is the most high-profile one, and we know that she was out of contract, and we would have definitely at least scouted and wanted whether or not we went any further than that, we don't know, do we? But the fact that if our first signing, our first option, whoever that first option is, it looks like we haven't got them up because there's no one joining us at the moment. Either way you look at it, there doesn't look like there's a backup plan. And, Andy, if you want to come in on this one first before I bring Marty in, the reason why I'm linking you in because you follow the men's team as well. And we've seen it before, if we can't get our first choice, it seems to take ages for us to get anything over the line, usually deadline day.
You mean Andrew, by the way, don't you?
Andrew, sorry, yeah.
I know where he was going with that.
Andrew,
the men's side, like we've had previous managers that had their list. You've had list A, B, C, and then it's like, well, these are the priorities, and then gone to the board and said, oh, we need to get these players, and then the board's come back and said, well, we can't get any of these. You've got to go to list B, and then it's like, well, we should always be striving for the best players. I mean, on Stina, I just think, were we ever really in the race for her? Because I think she said about joining Arsenal, she said she got a really good impression of them and wanted to be a part of the club. So I'm like, and for Arsenal, I don't think it was a priority for them to, well, it's in terms of getting a striker, but it's more seen from what I was just reading earlier, more like a luxury signing for them. And I know the Arsenal manager saying this has not had no direct influence on Vivian Miedemeier, her future, because I know her contract is running down at the end of the season. But let's say I would like to see her at United because we need another forward. Like with Martha Thomas at the moment, she's not had that consistent run. She's had like these niggly injuries that have she's been stop-start, and like hopefully in the second half of the season, Martha Thomas can get that good run and start scoring a lot of goals, and then we could say, well, we didn't really need Stina in the end. So it would have been nice to have a player of that caliber because we need that squad depth, because obviously we've got the cup games coming up as well, so we need to rotate the players and give everyone that game time too.
Yeah, I think on that with the Arsenal thing, I think what they've done is they've seen an opportunity and they've grasped it. They don't necessarily need a striker of that caliber right now, but if one becomes available who wants to come to England, then why wouldn't you snap her up? And if someone was to leave, i.e., Toby won't be there forever, Miedemar probably won't be there forever, then all of a sudden they're not playing catch up. They've got someone there waiting. We saw Chelsea do it with LJ, slightly different, but they've got players there, aren't they? Whether or not it's the right thing to do, whether or not the manager can keep them all happy is going to be a question. But Martin, what's your thoughts on Blackstenius joining Arsenal? You mentioned before we went on air about the manager side of things. Surely that made a big impact as well.
Well, I do think that Man United were in the running for Blackstenius toward the summer. She was probably looking forward, looking at what possible moves she could make, checking out all the teams and everything. The women's soccer, excuse me, but it's WOSO, it's the women's soccer. That's what it stands for. But women's football is a very small community when it comes to top players. So all the top players know each other. They've played on multiple teams together, and they stay connected, especially when it comes to, who's a good coach, who's a good team, what's the environment, will I get there, what do you want? Okay. I do think that Man United had a fighting chance with Blackstenius, but I also think that she watched Man United, saw that Skinner didn't come in until late, Mark didn't come in until late in the season, and then when he did come in, he wasn't hitting the ground running. He wasn't. There was this line of games where obviously we could have won, we didn't, we tied instead. Then we finished up really, really strong. Okay, but right now, because of the transfer window, it's sort of like, well, let's have a wait and see attitude. What's the scuttlebutt? What's everybody saying? Where should I go? She already knows that Arsenal's in the Champions League, and she also knows that Jonas had, I believe, an excellent reputation at Rosengard. Okay, so she would be well aware of that, and that was just a more, I wouldn't say a sure thing, but had a more steadier foundation than what we have at Man United, because we could come out and we could continue the way we finished, or we could go back to, we play really, really well against teams that are not quick, okay? But against teams that are quick and can read what we're doing, where we don't do well. We just don't do well at them. So, and I think that honestly, people are saying, well, not the managers. Like, I do think it's Mark. I do think it's a matter of he does not have a history that is good in the WSL for a top 3 team to go into a Champions League, and I think that's important. He just doesn't have a track record yet. He will, but just not at this time. And then when he gets the track record, he'll be there. But, it's very hard when you're in the UK and you're competing against, the likes of the Italian league, the French league, Spanish. The Spanish league's coming up really, really harsh, and they're all fighting for players. And they are extremely competitive in how they fight for players. So I'm glad she's in the WSL. I don't think that she's an extra, okay, for Arsenal. Arsenal has still made the quarters. They can beat Wolfsburg, but Arsenal has basically looked like a broken down car, okay, in terms of, the car hasn't had an oil change for quite a while, and all its innards are just gucked up and it's not moving. That's the way they're playing right now. So if getting Stinius back, signing Stinius, getting Heath back, getting Leah Williamson back is going to recharge their engine, I'm all for that, because I would like to see them go farther in the Champions League. And I do believe that the ability to be able to compete year in, year out for that top 3 Champions League is important to the top level international players. I do believe that. You can't tell me that all those City players don't believe that they're going to make the top 3 this season. They totally believe it. They should not be where they are now. And the only thing that I say is, the only thing holding them back, in my opinion, is Gareth Taylor. But, I'm not a fan.
I was just going to say, I was just going to add one more point on Stina. I just thought, if she had come in, there was like those rumours like being reported by Emma Sanders a couple of weeks ago saying, well, she could come in at the expense of Alessia Russo, which I did not want to see, because there was a report Russo would go back to America. And I'm like, well, Russo is definitely one of the key players for us, and I think she's going to be one of the stars of the upcoming stars of the future for United and England. So I just thought, in some ways, yes, I'd have been happy to have her there, but then if at the expense of another star player, well, no, I'm happy that, well, it looks like Russo will probably be, well, at least stay until the end of the season. Hopefully they extend her contract. I know she's got they can extend it by another year, but I'm hoping they'll extend it for a few more years beyond that as well.
Marty mentioned Skinner's name there, and like I said, this might have gone to Arsenal because maybe Mark's calibre potentially. If Marty didn't mean that, I think there's people on Twitter that's kind of leaning towards that as well potentially.
I'm not saying he's not going to be. He doesn't have the potential to be a top manager for a top 3 team in the WSL. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, if you look at his track record now, and you're a player who measures their career in number of years that they can play and what they can get, and the goal is to get everything you can, and the top one is the World Cup, then there is all the hardware that you can gather. Okay, you just want a whole shelf full of hardware, and you want to go about it as proficiently as possible. What I'm saying is, if you look at Mark Skinner's track record as of today, okay, he does not have a track record that says, I'm going to be in the Champions League for the next 5 years.
Neither does Man United, and I think that's what we're up against, isn't it, really? Team have never been in the Champions League, so it's going to be very awkward to get these top players in. But Andy, I did want to kind of bring you in on this a little bit. there are fans out there that's kind of leaning towards like slating Skinner at the moment, and me personally, I can't see that when it comes to transfers. For me, I'm sure Skinner would have wanted Blackstenius or wanted any player, but for me, it's like the board is kind of loosing me down, or whoever is doing the negotiating, whoever's doing the deals. And then now you can see both sides of it. Do you want to just come in on that point before we move on?
Yeah, I can bring it into my topic as well if you want,
Yeah,
because it's kind of a bit of a start off of 10, isn't it? Mark Skinner. I mean, in another show, I used an example. I'll have to use a metaphor again. Maybe it'll be applicable to Marty. I don't understand. Skinner is like an unreliable boyfriend. He came in with all these smiles, looking fresh, looking good. It worked out well initially, all these promises, and then middle of the season, he actually showed that he's actually not particularly good in a lot of areas. And then just before, people were thinking of dumping him, he then essentially got the footballer version of flowers and chocolate and win 3 games in a week just before Christmas. And we all went into the Christmas break feeling a bit more positive. I mean, it's difficult because Skinner's made a rod from his own back. Officially, Skinner's said nothing about transfers to the journos. He's not said we're getting anybody, he's not hinted that. But he has said various things off the record in crowded in after games where he strongly hinted we're getting transfers. Now I can't sort of like tell him off for that because we want to engage with the manager, but also by doing so, that's why people that are match-going fans are aware of this, that he's made little hints and little quirks. It's wound us all up because obviously, if you stick to the official line, we're nowhere near getting anybody. And that in itself is a problem because we need strikers. I agree with Andrew. Getting rid of Russo would have been asinine. There's no other word for it. It would have been stupid. And, I'm very concerned that currently the board or Skinner or a combination of thereof are creating we're basically a 2-tier club. We're either a crash or a rehabilitation centre. We either deal with people who are really young and getting some fantastic talents, and that's going to, if we can keep hold of them, that's gonna be brilliant going forward. Your Ella Toons, your Karis Jones, some of the others that are following through. It's fantastic. Owner, fantastic. The problem is we won't. They'll just, Emma Hay just go, thank you very much. The Arsenal guy, thank you very much. Barca's manager, thank you very much. And we'll just be basically plucking them all out. But my main topic, what I was going to say is that I'm a bit concerned, not necessarily much about Skinner at the moment, but some of the things that he's saying, and whether or not that's him or the board, I don't know. But his most recent interview for the Birmingham game, I mean, if you actually listen to what he said, it's really quite worrying from the United fans' point of view. What he said was that we're trying to get to a point where we can take teams off anybody in this league on our day. Woohoo! Sorry, is that the plan? Woo! We can take points. We can win at some point. And then earlier to that, he made Birmingham sound like Barcelona. Oh, it's going to be a tough game. Oh, yeah, I know they tripped up Arsenal last week, but he really did over-egg that put it. And then he said he wants to win trophies. And no mention of transfers really in the interview, obviously, because it's MUTV. But I don't know. I do wonder whether or not they see United as an easy way to, maybe does the trophies mean the WSL? Does it mean the FA Cup, or does it mean the Conti Cup? I worry it means the Conti Cup. That's what I think they think is going to be great. And also, when taking points off everybody, that's not winning the league. That's not what he said. He said, "Oh, if we work hard, if we follow the energy and all that bollocks, we'll be able to take points on our day off everybody." That's what you would say to Birmingham if you were a Birmingham manager. That's what you would say to Aston Villa if you're the Aston Villa manager, not if you're Man United. So my question is, I suppose, just to sort of wrap it up a little bit, is what does the club want? And do we have a chance of changing that? Is it the more sort of Eeyore is my spirit animal oh, we're just going to go and become fifth for the next 5 years, or is it genuinely just some sort of long-term emotionless plan where eventually we do have a chance of getting third? Because to shoot my own argument, I thought about this earlier. Nobody could say that Spurs has a lightning brilliant squad, but they're currently quite comfortable in third. So maybe it is possible to get third based on what we've got. So I suppose, what's the problem? The club, Skinner, or both of them?
It's got to be club for me. I understand your viewpoints on Skinner, and you guys are well more experienced in women's football than I am. But me and Andrew would always look at it from the men's point of view, which I'm not necessarily saying is correct, because it isn't, because it's two different entities. But we've seen so much underinvestment recently, since the Glazers have taken over, that it's not a big surprise to me. And that's the worrying thing. And it needs a proper structure. It needs somebody like a Ranyak, who's got real experience, by the way, of growing clubs. I'm not just talking about a single club. I'm talking about conglomerate clubs. For example, if you look at the Red Bull brands, he took over. They were worth 120 million euros, and now worth 1.2 million euros as a corporation. And we need somebody like that, but we've been so far behind, and Andrew will attest to this. We needed a director of football on the men's side that for years, absolute years, somebody who can identify players early and have the nous to bring them in, not worry about whether players want to come to Manchester United. Hold on, you don't want to come, we choose you. You don't come to us, we choose you. And that's how it's always been with our club. And unfortunately, with the women's side, it's never going to get like that until they pull their finger out and decide exactly what they want to do with it. So, in answer to your question, Andy, we're on the fence with it.
Yeah,
Manchester United as a club are right on the fence with it.
I mean, in a way, I don't jump onto the men's side because I don't really know it, but you would think that actually to cover their proverbial posteriors about the men's failings, you give the women's side £2 million or £1 million quid.
It's nothing.
It transforms the team, and you think that even if you want to think of it negatively, you think that the Glazers could do that and go, well, that'll shut them up for a bit if we win. But they're not even thinking in that regard. That would be the cheapest way to get good publicity would be to give us £1 million, and then we could get some top players.
It's crazy.
Do you want to come in, Martin? You wanted to
the only thing I wanted to point out is the one thing that I don't think that Mark Skinner's really paying attention to is he's not seeing the movement of the teams around him. Okay, he's not paying attention to Tottenham. He's not paying attention that they're really only one striker away from sealing that third place position. They've been riding on their defense, and they have a fairly solid midfield. They're losing Kaya Simon to the Asian Cup. Okay, right now, Arsenal's losing three. They're losing 3 players. Chelsea's losing a player. They're losing 2 players. They're losing G plus Sam Kerr. All right. So right now, because the Asian Cup is coming, is going on, and it's going to be going on for a couple of weeks, this is really the time where you have the internationals that are the Asian internationals, as well as the Australian internationals and New Zealand, that some teams are going to be down. Okay. So we, as a team, don't really lose anyone for the Asian Cup. So this is really our time to strike. But I don't see Mark, being, the impetus of striking anything. Okay. He is, like Andy said, he's laid back in terms of he wants, the problem I've always had is he wants to teach them how to fight. It's like, these are professional women footballers. Okay. They have had to fight just to be able to be professional footballers. So that is laughable to me, always. So he's not paying attention to the West Hams. He's not paying attention to Carla Ward over at Aston Villa, because
unfortunately he is paying attention to West Ham. We're picking up half their injury-prone players, and then
But that's not the good way of paying attention.
Oh yeah, Jay Ross, didn't we?
So what I'm saying is he thinks that there's going to be, like this just way of meandering in to a good place of Man United women's football. And I find that I just want to put a firecracker under his butt. Okay. It's kind of like just to get him to have the reality of no, you can't be calm about this in terms of, I'm not saying he needs to be frantic about it, but he needs to sort of pay attention to what the others are doing, because they're not going to be sitting on their butts.
I forgot one bit, by the way, just before Stu goes in. The other thing that worried me on that interview, although I think it was one of the quotes on one of the print media, was basically saying there's a small amount of people on a free at the minute, strongly alluding to the fact that we can't get anybody unless they're free. Where's that money gone, Mark? Where have you used it on your haircut? Where's that LJ money gone?
So
where's 100 grand gone?
Well, you've kind of beat me to that, because I was going to say, just playing purely devil's advocate here, and again, Andy will know this, it could well be that the board just don't want to back him, and he's been told that he's not going to get backed, and he's having to work around that with the fans. I'm just purely playing devil's advocate. I'm not saying that's true.
Where's 100 grand gone?
I'll let Andrew finish up on this topic, but yeah, absolutely. I'm sure Mark will want to spend money if he could. I'm sure it's not his choice. We don't know if he is sleeping on West Ham or Tottenham. Maybe he just wants. Maybe he's fully aware that he needs players, and he's just not being given them. More likely, we've got this sporting football director coming in at some point, probably March, April time, and we might be holding out until the summer. Which is
too late, though.
Sorry, I just worked it out. That's what the 100 grand is. That's it. That's going to pay for his salary.
It's too late. I could be a sporting director for Manchester United women, because it's more common sense than actual knowledge at the moment, and it really is, because you've got people around you, you've got good people around you that understand the women's game. You just need to push them in the right direction with a bit of knowledge, with a bit of common sense, But anyway,
Andrew, last word with you on this one before we move on.
I was going to say, I sort of agree with Stu. I think it lies above Skinner's head. I'm like, I know we're expecting a director of football, and that was announced like back in December we're going to get one, but it seems to have all gone suddenly quiet. I'm like, well, is there any further movement on it? I mean, I presume Skinner's reporting to John Murto about the transfers, but like, has he given him like list of players he wants, and has Murto gone out and done anything? It's just like, because I'm sure in an interview he gave before Christmas, Skinner was sort of hinting that at least one or two players are coming in, but didn't want to sort of divulge anything more about it. So it goes above, like, and the Glazers themselves. So we have every right to question how the club is being run. Obviously, the Glazers they've been a bit more communicative recently, but before that, it was virtually non-existent, and it left us fans and on the men's side like frustrated and angry. And it's like, well, the Glazers have say milked the club, say dry of like all the money, and say never willing to really reinvest it and back into where it's on. Okay, in recent time on the men's, they have invested in players, but also like on the training facilities and the ground itself. Like with last year with the women where there was her training as well, and that furore that was going around saying they weren't able to properly train anywhere. And like, and as the Glazers own the club, they have every right to do what they want with it in terms of how it's run. Because say football clubs now run more like businesses, but I hate to say it, our noisy neighbours across the road, Man City, their owners have invested well over £1 billion in making the club better, not only just getting players in for the men's, the youth and women's, but also training facilities, whereas the Glazers have ripped out £1 billion. I'm like, we should be the best of the best. I think the Glazers are starting to realise now that the United are falling way behind, and we need to catch up, but we shouldn't have let that happen in the first place. But I hope Skinner is given the backing like on the men's side where we've had previous managers, they've been given the backing, and hopefully Skinner is, and then we can see what type of squad he wants to shape going forward. But I say only time will tell whether those above will give Skinner the backing and we get the players that we ideally want.
Yeah. Stu, what's your topic, mate?
Well, it kind of leads me into my topic, because my worry about the way the clubs run, and if you don't make any significant signings in January, there is still an off chance that we may actually make top three. There's a chance we might actually make Champions League, and if we were to make Champions League, the football itself, the squad itself, is not good enough to it's not equipped enough to really do well in that competition. So it always becomes, if we do make Champions League, then the summer turnover, the summer spend is going to be absolutely huge. And this is what it goes back to common sense in football. You should be looking to bring 2 or 3 players in to bulk up your squad now, but these players capable enough to play Champions League football. And then in the summer, you move 1 or 2 out and you bring 3 players in that are capable of playing Champions League football. So you've gone from maybe 1 or 2 in your squad that can play Champions League football to almost 9 players, depending on what you've got and how the configuration goes. If Skinner isn't backed in the January transfer window, we won't have the money, I don't think, in the summer to put an assault on the Champions League. And I just wondered what you guys thought about that logic.
I think it's pretty strong. I think the problem that we're going to have as well, and this I think is universal in football for men or women, when they know you really need something, the price goes up, and everybody knows we really, really need a striker and an established one.
Yeah, excuse me. I don't think I completely agree with you, and I like the plan layout that you just detailed, but I don't think we're going to get any top international that is desired in the January window. We're not going to get them without already having a lock on. Like if we were in 3rd place and we were up, say, at least 4 points, we could get them. Okay, that's my position. If we had all those ties turn into wins and got all those points, we would be a solid 3, and we would have it. What I do think is I think we can get a 2nd-tier striker, okay, that is coming in from, a young owner, but a striker owner, in terms of, just started her career's on an upward flow like another Russo. Okay. We know Russo's going to be great, and she's durable, and she's quick, she's fast, she's lightning, she strikes. Okay. That kind of player, like honestly, Salmon. Okay. It's sad that she used to be
Well, that's a perfect example. So
and that we lost her, Ebony. Okay. She would be a huge fit here. Okay.
Yeah, just to build on that a little bit, that's exactly the problem. We found the right striker, but we got her too early, so we couldn't keep hold of her. Then she's gone on, developed, and become a top class striker. So that's another issue that we've got, because we had her as an original. And I'm not saying that we genuinely thought she wasn't worth it, but I don't know what the logic was, that she wasn't going to be there quick enough or whatever. But at the end of the day, we got rid of her, and this is a problem because we're exposed. We're exposed if we've got too many kids. But the only thing I would say as a sort of counter to what you're saying, and it could be the exception that proves the rule in a way. So I could be making a point for you, Marty. But Jackie came. Why did Jackie come? Because we were in a worse position when Jackie came. So if it is a situation where your top class players won't touch you to the barge pole.
Yeah, but Jackie came.
Why did Jackie
come? We had Casey. Okay.
And a first-time manager.
Yeah, first-time manager. But she has got a track record of a winner.
As a player.
You can say a lot of things. We've lost games, but we never didn't compete when Casey was manager. Okay. We always competed. We lost, but we competed. All right. And she got everybody ready to compete. And then she got Ona. I mean, she was, you could call her, what do you call it? The Pied Piper. Okay. In terms of being able to lay out the vision and say, okay, in 2 years, this is where we're going to be. And if things had gone a little bit different last year, we would be in the Champions League this year. Okay, right?
Well, the problem you've got though is that you're saying that because Skinner hasn't got the credibility, nobody would look at us if they're a top level
He doesn't have a
team.
track record, no.
Neither's technically did Casey. Now I think she was a great manager.
Yeah, but she didn't lose 90% of her matches in the last 2 years at, in a different league. I mean, granted, I'm American, so I see what, in terms of what happened with the Pride.
It's all right. We get satellite over here as well, so we can also see some of the games.
Okay, so I agree with you. Casey did not have a track record in terms of she's a very new manager and she was a rookie manager. Okay, Mark is not a rookie manager, but if you look at his track record, okay, in the NWSL, all right, you're sort of going, why would I give this guy a team? Why would I play for this guy?
Maybe I'm
he had Marta,
here.
He had Marta, and he had Alex Morgan, and he couldn't win.
Yeah, maybe
he had Ashlyn Harris and Ali Krieger. He couldn't win.
Maybe I'm challenging my inner John here. But what I'm trying to say is somehow maybe we just kidnapped her. Somehow we got Jackie Cronin to sign. So there is some mechanism for us to get top players in summer.
But are we going to be able to keep Jackie?
We may do, we may not. But the whole thing is if we keep getting the top players in. I agree with Stu. Just going back to Stu's topic, obviously it was Stu's topic. I mean, I think it is a problem. I think we might get away with it because there's less transfers, as in with money in the women's game. But that's starting to change quite quickly, and good so, because obviously more money for the clubs, more money for the players. So it's possible that again we're a couple of years behind, and we're thinking there'll be all these freebies hanging around, and there might not be. And again, I go back to what I was saying earlier. Where is that $100,000 gone? Where's LJ's money gone? Has it just been swallowed up? It might have been, to be honest.
So, I mean, for a club like us, £1 million investment is absolutely nothing. We're paying some of our youth players £1 million a year, to play in the under 23s. So £1 million is absolutely zero. And if you can make that investment, because I tell you something for nothing, and you're quite right, in 3 years' time, that £1 million investment you need now is going to be £5 million. And in 5 years' time after that, it's going to be £10 million. And it's just going to keep growing and growing and growing and growing and growing. Not as probably as quick as that, but the increments will really increase by millions rather than hundreds of thousands. And so if you can pick up a good player like Stina for, I don't know, and she was only training, wasn't she, with her last club that she's come from? But from what I understand, she wasn't affiliated with them totally. And she had the pick of clubs as well, European clubs as well as the WSL clubs. If we can't attract, or certainly not get in the conversation, because I don't think we were in the conversation with her, to be honest, and that's quite poor. We can't get in the conversation; it's a real problem. And if our board, if our Richard Arnold now can't sanction $100,000 for a top female player when he's paying $350,000 a week, then we've got a problem as a club, and they've got to decide what do they stick or do they twist. Now we've had too many seasons of sticking in the men's, and we've just started to twist now, and we've got to do something in the January transfer window to cement our potential top 4 place. So the men's side is no different to the women's in that, and we're dragging on the men's side. So
if we can keep hold of Ona, that would be ideal. To be honest, I might be seen as unpopular here, but I'd rather keep Ona even at the expense of Jackie, because she is that good of a player.
Yeah, she is, yeah.
And she's a bit younger as well. There's not much in it, but still, it's always a bit. There's a bit more tread on the tires, essentially.
Yeah.
There. But I think the other thing that I would say as a player that's kind of a bit worrying, and as a fan that's a bit worrying, is Skinner won't drop Zellum even if she sat in the middle of the pitch and started singing Kumbaya. There's no way that in God's green earth. There is no way in God's green earth she can get dropped. So all right, attackers aren't affected by that time midfield. But it is going to destabilise your Jackies, your VBRs. It's going to destabilise them completely, and it does give a big question over Skinner. Why? Now, all right, she's playing much better now, and we're not talking about that. So just let's make it more theoretical. Why is there a player, whoever they may be, in our squad that it literally does the old Donald Trump, that she could shoot somebody in Fifth Avenue and still be playing next week? And that's the most bizarre thing to me. And that's what is so weak about our club.
There are certain elements that does happen in professional football, right? I mean, across many clubs. I mean, crikey, we got it in the men's team. You know, there are one or two players that think, "Oh, for fuck's sake, why is he in again?" But he is, and there are certain players that just seem undroppable. Now, Katie's, we know, was played out of position. We know all of this, so there's no point. I'm not going to go back to that. Sometimes you need to rest players, though, and I tend to agree with that. You need to rest players. You need to take them out the firing line if they're not having a good couple of games. And they need to play themselves back into form. Credit where credit is due. I think she's managed to play herself into something.
Yeah, it's more theoretical. It's just a worrying behaviour.
It's a good point. And now Jackie's she's back training, isn't she? I've noticed. I've seen on Twitter Jackie's back training. She looks happy. She's smiling. The cold doesn't seem to bother her, but she's Dutch anyway, so it won't. And I think
you're going to give me a Frozen song there, mate. The cold. You
know. No. I could recite that like every other father. I could recite that. No. And it'll be interesting to see what is the game going ahead this weekend. Have we got COVID issues or?
No, it's on tomorrow. Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed, because they're trying to call the London derby off, aren't they? Now Tottenham and
it's because Emma Hayes doesn't want to have any people missing from the Asia Cup. Let's be honest.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, and so from that point of view, that's what I think. So yeah. Sorry, John.
No, that's all right. We've got another 20 minutes left. I know Andy needs to go on time as well because he's got another show 8:15 on Maze's channel. So please tune into that one as well.
Yeah, I need to go on time as well.
Is that a live show, Andy, at 8:15?
It is, yeah.
Awesome. So after this one, please check out Maze's channel as well, Devils United.
Are you on Maze's, are you?
Yeah.
I do just want to stick with Andy just on this one before I come to Andrew's topic. Andy, something that Stuart mentioned about giving us £1 million to kind of sort something out, or even just any chunk of money because Man United's so rich. And I think TJ in the comments mentioned, 150 grand. For Man United, yes, we should always be able to spend that money. I've mentioned, and I've brought up this conversation a few times on the show. I don't know if I'm just getting too well so, and please forgive me if I am, but is it fair that we should just be like throwing money at players for this kind of stuff? Just to kind of put it in context. Would it just end up like a monopoly where all the top men's teams would end up being the top women's teams because of the backing? Man United women's team haven't earned any money yet. We haven't even made Champions League to get any extra money. I agree that we've sold LJ to raise money. Yeah, awesome. We should definitely spend that. This is probably one for another show, but Andy, just your thoughts on that one before I come to Andrew's topic.
We're already there, mate. It's already happened. It's already happened. It's done. It's done. And you can give you a moment of silence if you want a little bit, but it's done. It's done. Certainly for the WSL. Now, obviously, am I a passionate advocate of the money down the pyramid? Yes. Do I think that the championship could be stronger? Yes. Do I think that the league could get expanded? Yes. But it's already there. If you look at the balance sheets of Chelsea, Arsenal, and Man City, they've all got very creative money from men's club or sponsorship or other things on their lines. They're already doing it. To an extent, what we're doing is we're playing by the book, and we're trying to make it a self-sufficient club. And we're wondering why we can't get past position 4, position 5 in the league, because we are going to have to play that game. Now, I'm not saying it's not possible, but unfortunately, the men's game currently is what's supporting the women's game. And I'm probably going to say something a bit more controversial here as well. And I don't necessarily see that as a bad thing. And the reason is because I support Man United, Stu supports Man United, we all support Man United. It's part of the same club. Whichever human beings, whether that be male or female, is playing for whatever team, you're still watching Man United play X or Y, Arsenal play X or Y. Now, would I love a full women's team? Being a pure women's fan, remember, would I love a Lewis or a full like Coventry United, a totally unattached women's team to be smashing it in the Champions League? Yeah, I would. But you need to think about I want our players to be on more money than I can earn in a career. And currently, some of those Coventry United fans, it was reported in the Mail, were on a full-time salary of £16,650. Nobody's going to change their life with that.
That's a part-time salary, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. I'm not going to say that it's going to be like gazillion quid and Pogba could probably buy Greece on a weekend because the amount of money that he's going to get. But like, you know, you want them to be earning. Really, this is what I'd want in 5-10 years' time. You'd want anybody who plays in the top half of the WSL to have an average salary of about 60 to 100 grand.
Yeah. Now the interesting thing is, John, and I'll just close it up on this. If you go back to the ESL days, we were taking the women as well. It wasn't just the men's team; it was going to be the women's team, and that was purely about money, nothing more and nothing less. The income generation of that small group of clubs for the women's would have taken us to a new level. But just like the ESL, not right for football, not right for anything. Andy's right. These girls, they should be earning 1,000 or 2,000 quid a week. They should be earning League Two salaries just at this point in time, starting to be able to, you know, eat, sleep like a true professional. They should have had Carrington years ago, not just this season, years ago, or utilising the Cliff better. You know, they should have been utilising the women's team and brought it into the fabric of our club, because I support Man United, as Andy says, just like Andrew, just like Marty, just like yourself. So.
Cool. Andrew, what's your topic, mate?
Sorry.
There's a bit of a delay with, I think Starbridge has got a delay satellite link.
Yeah, I thought there was. Yeah, go on.
So before going to my talk, I'll just quickly touch on what Stu, Andy, and Marty said. I think January transfer window, that's notoriously difficult to get any players in, but I just think hopefully we get 1 or 2 in. But if we don't, then if we're going to manage to get like into the top 3, I think the key is we don't have any significant injuries to the key players, because if we do, then we might struggle to pick up results and points. But hopefully we can get some new additions in, and then we can just kick on in the second half of the season. My top is looking towards the end of the season, and when Mark Skinner like evaluates his squad and look who he wants to keep and move on. And I've been looking at the squad of players that we do have. I know, like in terms of the goalkeepers, we've got Mary Earps and Sophie Bagley, but then we've got 2 more goalkeepers on loan, Emily Ramsey and Fran Bentley. When Ramsey and Bentley come back, well, we're going to have 4 goalkeepers on the books. So Skinner's not going to want 4 goalkeepers on the books. So I'd say at least 2 of them are going to go. So I don't know whether Ramsey and Bentley have already been on loan, they will move on. A couple of other players I was thinking might move on is Martha Harris. I'm just thinking she's injuries preventing her getting much game time this season. She might want, I don't know what her thinking is. She might want to think, I want to move on and then get to a club where I'm going to get more game time. Also, probably Kirsty Smith as well. She's only been getting game time in mostly the cups as well. It's just, and whether their contracts, I'm not sure on their contract situation, whether it's up at the end of the season or not, but they might decide they want to move on. But the other key one is the contract situation with the players. Like with Russo, it can be extended for another year, but then will Russo want to stay? Like with somebody like Honor Battier as well. I'm just interested to know which players you think Mark Skinner might look to move on in the summer, so he can and new players to come in, and also would he bring any players through from the development squad into the first team squad?
So with 1 eye on the time, Andy, do you want to kind of give your thoughts on that one, then I'll jump in afterwards, and then we'll finish up on Marty's topic?
Yeah, I mean, it depends again on what's going to happen. If he's going to have to generate money to spend money, then he's going to make us very unhappy on one player to then get possibly 3 average players back. I really hope that's not the case, because unfortunately, if you look at the names that you mentioned, and I agree with all of them, by the way, I think we'll probably stick with 3 keepers. I think we'll get rid of 1, just because of the way life works when it comes to injuries. You're not going to get much money for them, to be honest. And even Martha Harris, I mean, nothing against her. She actually played really well in Durham. I was quite surprised, I'll be honest. But the problem is that she's not at this level. And to be fair, and one of the positives for having such a really streamlined squad is that we don't really have many people hanging on anymore. We've got very few deadwood left, which is good, because you don't want to have any deadwood. But once you've cleared some of them, then yeah, it depends. I think those names are going to go. Personally, keeper wise, I would probably keep Mary Earps, Sophie Bagley, and Fran Bentley. I'd probably get rid of Rambo. personally, not to upset certain people, because she was only playing against Arsenal because their keeper was injured, and if you're on loan to a club, you've got to keep the number 1 jersey, and she lost it to whoever their other person is. Whereas I know Fran's playing in the Championship, but she's very much cemented herself as the number 1 for Bristol. So personally, just based on that, and based on a few other things as well that I've seen, because I've seen, Fran play 1 game, Rambo see about 4 games over the last few years. I probably would go that way. But anyway, either or, to be honest, it doesn't really matter. Either or will keep, and then the other one will go. Honor Baget, love her to death. I'd love to keep her for 1 more year. But the problem is, she's born and raised in Catalonia. We bleed Barca. And I actually wouldn't blame her when she got, not irrespective of other problems, even if we were winning the league, we all know the love of the club. And I actually would be quite, not happy, but I'd let her go because I know she bleeds Barca. And I'll enjoy watching her at Barca. But yeah, we've got to lock down one, either Ona or Jackie. Russo, there's been talk about her going to San Diego. It's a bit early in her career for that, I think. I think she'd want the cut and thrust and the jeopardy of possibly being relegated, not with us, but just still technically there, rather than the kind of more neutral NWSL because there's no relegation. But I think maybe she'll eventually end up there with Casey if she has an affinity with her. But obviously, I'd be interested to find out what everybody else's views are.
Yeah, I just give my. I agree with the goalkeeper situation. Forced too many, so one of those will probably drop out. When you consider that the lack of games in women's football anyway, 3 goalkeepers for me is enough. Fullbacks, it's always the same for like the last couple of seasons. We keep on saying one of them will go. Smith or Martha. So I'll say the same again. I don't think we're in a position where, especially if Anna does go, where we can let 3 fullbacks go. No matter, even if Maria can play out wide, I think we probably will see one of them go. I can see a bit of a surprise. I can see maybe a midfield shake-up. There's a reason why certain players aren't playing, and I don't know what that reason is. There's a reason why it's not a settled midfield, and again, I don't know what that reason is. But I think we have 6 very competent midfielders. I know some people might think we've got 4 or 5, whatever. I think we've got 6 competent midfielders who all should be a United player. But I can see there being a bit of a shake-up in the midfield. Attackers, I'm really happy the Hansen signed a contract. I'm really happy the Skolton signed a contract because at least if they do go, we'll get money for them. Russo, I don't think was going anywhere. I think what Emma Sanders was basically saying on that article is Casey Steiner was a big fan of her. She had to wait 6 months before she could sign anyone back from United. And she never really got to play under Casey that much for United because she was injured. So I don't think Russo's going to go anywhere. So I do think that there will be changes. I think there'll be a lot of upset fans over the summer, as there has been for like the last couple of years. I'm hoping it's not Anna, and I'm hoping it's not Jackie. But let's just say I think there will be some surprises.
Can I just drop in 1 quick second on that?
Yeah.
What I would like to see is more of a devs integration as well. I like the development side, but I would like to see our development side on a regular basis beat our first team, because that way you'll get 1 or 2, maybe 3 that gradually run through to the first team, and that's what we need. So if we're not going to strengthen the first team, strengthen the devs, get them playing a particular way, get them to every week beat the first team, and then you'll get that natural migration through from the devs. Whether that happens or not, I don't know, but I'd like to see that kind of formation system going.
Martin, we've got about 5 minutes left. Do you want to? Because you brought up a good topic before we started the show, and I think it's something that we should do a whole show on at some point. So if you want to kind of start it off now, and then I'll have a word to some of the other guys, and we'll do a whole show on it, I think.
Okay, sounds good. The only thing I want to say is I agree with Stu, and I agree with pretty much earlier in the show we were saying about getting someone in to take Man United into like the next level. And honestly, I don't think you can get somebody in here to do that. But I do think that you can develop grassroots wise, sort of like Tooney and Russo and Carrie Jones and the ones who are coming up, and that they become similar how we saw Tooney just grow. beyond measure. I don't think Russo's going anywhere, or if she's going, it depends upon what Friedman wants. The manager of the national team. You have the Euros coming up, and if she really wants to be selected for the Euro team, she needs to stay around the WSL and be up and coming there. The NWSL starts in February, and the only way she would move would be if there was sort of reach out from Casey Stoney to Serena Rigman and say, hey, can I take this player? Is she going to get a fair shot? Is that going to work? She did the same thing with Alex Greenwood when Greenwood stepped back down to the championship and, to make sure that she would be considered. Okay, that I see happening. Possibly that would be a potential. Okay, I don't think she's going anywhere. I don't think Daly's coming to Man United, guys. I really don't. If she did, that would be awesome. I like Rachel Daly. I'm a fan of hers, but I don't think it is. The one thing that y'all never get is that what a female football player looks for to come to a team is not the same as what a male football looks for when they come to a team. Female football players look for the environment, the coach, the medical, okay? Because female footballers are more inclined to tear their ACL. Huge in terms of the odds of them tearing it versus a men tearing it are unbelievable. They're exponentially different. Okay, so I think that that's what they're looking at. The money is good, but they're looking for opportunity and they're looking for extension of their career. For their career, when they look back on it, it's the best that they could have done, and they laid it all out there because they will give you their best effort. Whereas men can sort of say they can give you their best effort, and sort of that they're mailing it in. I'm worried for Mark. Okay, I don't know who we got. I just don't know what kind of coach we got, and I think that we have very, very top tier players in our squad. We don't quite have enough of them, but we also have a mix of players who, they could be in a WSL, but they can't be in a top 3 team. They're not gonna. They can't show up in and out, and playing the same way for each time against every team is just going to be wearing on us fans because it's not going to work. And I think that Ona, if we can somehow clinch the top 3, we have a chance of keeping Ona and Jackie. Okay, because I do think that at this point it is important to Jackie in her career right now. And for Ona, I think it allows her to say, yeah, I'd like to stay. I'm having fun. And I'd like to stay, and I have a reason to stay. I don't necessarily see her going to Barca. I agree with you, Andy. That's where she grew up, and those are her roots. But on the other hand, sometimes you don't want, because most of Barca is made up of the Spanish national team. It's sort of like Man City, okay, in that you have most of the English national team there. And sometimes it's good to be able to star on your own flight.
I think that's a wrap. I think that's the hour gone. Thank you for joining us, Marty. I can see you've got a lovely home there behind you. I think I've got to shout out that.
Not mine, but it's nice while I'm borrowing it. So, and thank you always for inviting me on.
Absolutely. We'll get you back on because that topic that you just finished on, we need to do some justice. So I'll have something in mind with that one. Stuart, thank you for joining us.
Absolute pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Andrew, I'll see you at the Stourbridge game on Sunday.
Yeah, you will.
Awesome. Look forward to that one. Andy, it's been a great week of shows. I know you're at the game tomorrow. I think I'll be seeing you at the following game. You see the Tottenham or Arsenal.
It's Tottenham missing Arsenal. Don't worry, if you listen quietly, you hear me crying in Rochdale that I'm not there.
Yeah, of course.
There you go.
But no, it's been a great week of shows and a fair bit of news coming out. Thank you to everybody in the comments. Really well handled show tonight because it could have gone anyway. I think it's gone really well. So thank you to everybody for joining in, and we shall see you again very soon. Thank you, guys.